There is no model out there that predicts Bitcoin goes down over time. Some of them taper, like Bitcoin 24 from Saylor, but every other model, stock to flow, power law, everything is numbered go up. And I think that is the direction it's going to go. People kind of think, oh, there's so much paper Bitcoin, like there's so many people selling, but that will only happen until it stops. And when it stops, it'll be very abrupt, and then you'll see the reaction in the market when the supply shock hits. I guess that's the reason why Bitcoin takes a hit. And we're not going up with anything good, but everything bad that happens, we take a hit. But the reason for that is because Bitcoin is so liquid that it can react to any concerns anyone has in the market at any time. But eventually this has to stop. So everything's had a run except for Bitcoin. So I think what we're looking at is the end of the bear market. The spring is coiled so tightly that it's about to rebound.
As the market recovers from the price of Bitcoin crashing, down over 24% just in the past month, we also saw over $100 million liquidated in minutes, with Bitcoin sitting just over $68,000. Today, Samson Mow discusses his prediction for Bitcoin and what we can expect in the coming months. Mow says 2026 will mark the beginning of an absolute surge in price for Bitcoin, as well as more all-time highs. And in the coming months, we'll witness one of the biggest price rises so far since the creation of the dominant cryptocurrency. The story has become even bigger in 2026 because of the Bitcoin ETFs, with thousands of institutional investors across the United States now buying Bitcoin. The demand for the leading digital asset has increased exponentially, and Mow says everything is about to change. In this latest interview, Mow discusses why it's more important than ever that nation-states adopt Bitcoin and incorporate into the global economy before the inevitable collapse of the current monetary system as we know it. Let's get right into the latest interview with Samson Mow, as he gives us his prediction for Bitcoin in the coming months and why a massive surge in capital is about to pour into the space.
Bitcoin has been flat for the past year largely, and it is the next opportunity to rise up. I've increased it actually to 1.33 million in 2026 because I think we're overdue for a bull run. And I am a permabull, and I don't really see the existing system lasting that much longer. And that shatters another common myth, which is Bitcoin is too big to 10x. The 4-year cycle is a myth. Like, there is no reason why, if Bitcoin adoption is structurally changed, which it has, that it'll simply follow the previous cycles. Like, Bitcoin is evolving constantly. The market dynamics are evolving constantly. There's no reason why if you flip your coin 4 times, you go heads, heads, tails, heads. Like that's just irrational thinking. If you're just trying to align it, like it's got to follow this schedule, then I think that is a recipe for disaster, especially if you're betting a significant amount of your money on that cycle, because Bitcoin is fundamentally different today than it was 4 years ago. We have institutions buying, we have Bitcoin treasury companies, and opinion in the Bitcoin space is divided on treasury companies, but I see them as a net positive because they are a constant source of buy demand, and I call that the infinite bid. They exist to buy Bitcoin. And you have countries getting into it too now. So there is really little in common in this cycle and in the future with anything in the past as Bitcoin is starting to evolve. But that is exactly what Bitcoin is. It's the shifting of one system, the broken fiat system, into a sound money system. And if you need any more reasoning or evidence to that extent, it is that shift to hard assets. And that in and of itself should be an indicator that this is the trend that we are following. So I think eventually people will come to understand that Bitcoin is better. It is verifiable. You can teleport it anywhere in the world. You can send it without any intermediary. And the spot markets are incredibly liquid. So Bitcoin is not designed to appreciate in price. The appreciation in price is a function of the scarcity, which it functions the same as anything else that is scarce. So it will go up because there is increasing demand, and it will go up because there is utility to it. Decentralized, permissionless, uncensorable money. There is great utility in that function, especially today, in this day and age, where you're seeing more and more attempts at asset seizure. So one of my predictions for this year was that Elon Musk is going to come back to Bitcoin. And a lot of his friends are from the All-In podcasts, like David Sachs and Chamath and those guys, and they are feeling this pressure. And Elon knows that too. It's just whenever he has cycles to really reason through this thing, I think he's going to make the same conclusion, because you can run from asset seizures, but to a certain point. Like, money doesn't grow on trees, and this is what we're finding. Like, it doesn't, and hard assets are repricing the world. And in repricing the world, this is where you see hard assets appreciate in price. So people just have to realize you can be bearish, you can think it'll go down, but just remember, it'll go back up after. Even as the most staunch bear, you cannot think it's going to go down and go to zero unless you're just oblivious to the world today, especially as we see things rotate. And eventually, Bitcoin will demand the respect that it deserves because of the finite supply. It is not too big to 10x. The increase in gold market cap from 20 to 40 is enough to 10x Bitcoin, and maybe even more. And it shows like the largest asset on the planet could almost double itself in a very short time frame. So all of the cards are on the table now. But I think people underestimate exactly how much resolve is in the Bitcoin hodlers. Like, we are the buyers of last resort. We are the holders of last resort. There is nowhere else to go. I have a friend that was that came into some cash, some fiat money, and he's going to put it all into Bitcoin because he also came to the same conclusion. Like, what am I going to buy? Am I going to buy gold at 4,500 or whatever it is? There is nothing else to invest in for the long term other than Bitcoin. There is nowhere else to go. Another thing that people have to realize is you can predict the price is going to go down, but any big drop is a discount.
Mow asserts this journey is just beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment. He also acknowledges that BlackRock's recent entry into Bitcoin will transform the crypto landscape as we know it, as more institutional investors pour in. This dramatic increase in capital will drive Bitcoin's price significantly higher, like we saw in the halving. Mow highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value, and crypto will be the best performing asset of them all.
Just take strategy because they're the biggest. You're going to let them average down. If we go down to 60, they'll start averaging down. How long will the market let them average down before the market understands that they don't need to let strategy average down? They could sell higher because strategy is willing to pay higher. And when these other treasury companies come into play, I think we're going to see a lot more shock in the demand of Bitcoin because, there's only so many days in a week. When strategy has announced their buy, there's that joke like, Bitcoin will go down because they announced their buy. But when you have several big players all buying, there are not enough days of the week where it can safely drop down without another big player scooping it up. So I'm really bullish still. There is nowhere to go for us other than Bitcoin, and there's nowhere else for Bitcoin to go other than up. In labs today, they can replicate gold out of lead. I don't see the boomers worried about that. That is a bigger threat to gold than quantum computing is to Bitcoin. Companies that are helping crypto projects transition to post-quantum. I mean, quantum computing is not a threat. I was looking at this TikTok video the other day, like some guy put a picture of a hole in the floor of an elevator, and then the guy coming into the elevator looked down and saw the hole in the elevator, and he panicked. That's how I view the quantum drama right now. It's like some people put this picture of a hole in the floor and people are looking at it and going, wow, it's scary. We're going to fall in that hole. But again, the threat of quantum is not to Bitcoin. It is to everything else. Like the entire banking system, all of this infrastructure, encrypted government sensitive communications, this is all going to be destroyed when quantum computers arise. And I think the Bitcoin network will be able to upgrade far sooner, and we already have a number of mitigations that can be deployed relatively quickly. When there is a clear and present danger to Bitcoin, the Bitcoin nodes, the plebs, the network, they upgrade very fast, and it's not going to be like a slow fix that's going to take years. And we also have preventative measures too. Blockstream has a lot of research underway to mitigate the threat, but the threat does not exist in any form factor today that is remotely credible. There is a clear and present danger to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin nodes, the plebs, the network, they upgrade very fast, and it's not going to be like a slow fix that's going to take years. But the threat does not exist in any form factor today that is remotely credible. So that's the state of the quantum computing world today. And yes, it can accelerate quickly, but it's not the biggest threat to Bitcoin. Quantum computing is not the biggest threat to Bitcoin. Quantum computing is the biggest threat to everything else, because Bitcoin will be the resilient functioning network. It is not that someone's going to use a quantum computer to hack your bank account. They'll just shut down the whole banking system. And that will be the end of the banking system completely. So no one seems to be worried about that. So everything is directed to Bitcoin only, but I just don't see it as a rational conclusion. But like in the past, you go back and Bitcoin had critical bugs. There is very clear consensus that a bug is a bug, a critical bug, and it'll get fixed almost immediately and rolled out. And the other point too is that we don't need to rush to fix a quantum threat, to address the quantum threat that does not exist, because that can have unintended consequences. You can change the cryptography to a different algorithm, and maybe that is not quantum safe in the end. We don't know. So rushing a fix out is actually the most dangerous thing to Bitcoin, especially when the threat does not exist. And a lot of the quantum threat is mitigatable. You just need a key path a spend key path that will be upgradable later on to spend your Bitcoin. And that key path doesn't need to have the signing mechanism defined today, but as long as that path exists, there is a way out. But the biggest danger is rushing some fix in now that actually makes Bitcoin breakable by classical computers, not quantum computers. So there's a fine line of balance between protecting the network by having a quantum resistant cryptography and adding some cryptography in there that is vulnerable today.
Samson Mow foresees a looming economic catastrophe driven by collapsing fiat money systems, rampant inflation, and bank failures. He suggests transitioning to a Bitcoin standard as the world grapples with the impending crisis. He asserts that the promises made by the central banks have been hollow, leading to excessive money printing and a proliferation of poor investments. And with the aftermath of the recent inflation surge, this will not lead to a return to the status quo. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, this journey is just the beginning. Comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs, Mow asserts this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem, selectively measured to create desired effects rather than reflecting the true state of the economy. In this context, Bitcoin emerges as an alternative, detached from the manipulations of the conventional economic sphere. That established corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Google will use their established relationships acquired over decades to swiftly acquire substantial amounts of Bitcoin through a spot ETF, bypassing the cumbersome processes involved in procuring the actual commodity. This disparity underscores the transformative power of cryptocurrencies in traditional financial institutions. Michael Saylor underscores the importance of embracing digital currencies as the economic landscape is changing rapidly, and urges investors to leverage Bitcoin's potential to secure a more prosperous financial future. What do you think about Samson Mow's prediction for Bitcoin? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.